I'm gonna live with Dad and my new mom, so hurry up and get a divorce and leave. After Richard, her husband, initiated the breakup and her affair was discovered, I was already in shock. But to make matters worse, Kevin, his stepson, said this with a snide smile on his face. He even began praising his dad's affair partner without being asked. Harper is beautiful and kind, you know. She's always smiling, not nagging about unnecessary stuff like you. I could be kind too if we only met occasionally. But once I became a mom, I felt responsible for raising Kevin. So, I nagged him to ensure he wouldn't face troubles in the future. I never thought it would be thrown back in my face like this. Fine. We'll get a divorce. I agreed to the divorce and left the house as if fleeing. 3 years later, the misunderstanding too appeared before me again. That's when I said it clearly. Heartless. And to think you were a parent. That's right. But I don't remember giving birth to you, nor are we blood related. Kevin, turning red with anger, indeed resembled Richard. I am Sophia, 25 years old. I work as a stylist. I've always loved makeup and clothes, making this job a dream come true. I never had a desire to marry, instead, I aspired to be a cool woman. But then I met Richard and quickly fell for him. Richard was 35, 10 years older. Our meeting was at a vintage clothing store I visited. Despite his long hair and beard, he had a gentle and handsome personality. I thought he was the dangerous type to fall for at first sight. Richard, naturally sociable, had a way of closing the distance with people and was touchy-feely. Moreover, he was good-looking and indiscriminate. Indeed, he cheated twice before we got married. And there were countless attempts at cheating. Thinking back, there were probably other women I didn't know about. The terrifying part was what he said when his cheating was discovered. So what? It's just an affair, right? What kind of justification was that? What are you talking about? Knock it off. To my angry and crying self, he really seemed puzzled as he repeated himself. No, I mean, because it's an affair. Huh? That's why I'm angry, right? Are you making fun of me? No, I'm not. An affair means it's just for fun, right? You're the only one who's serious about. Such an excuse was unacceptable. What culture? Each time something like this happened, I resolved to break up with him over and over again. But I could never win against his face, his inclusiveness, and the comfort he provided. When he proposed, I was so moved and felt genuinely chosen that I cried. My parents subtly opposed it, but I pushed through, and we got married. However, shortly after our marriage, a shocking fact was revealed. He's going to live with us from today. He said it so casually as he was petting a boy who looked about elementary school age. Wait. Who is this kid? Feeling a bad premonition, I asked, and he answered with a smile. My kid, Kevin. He's 10. I knew he had a history of divorce before we got married, but I had never heard anything about a child. When I pressed him on why he didn't tell me, Richard answered nonchalantly. Because you didn't ask. If you had asked, I would have told you. Normally, you'd tell someone that important without being asked. Is that so? But at that time, there was no plan to live with him. I'm hurt by what you call normal. Kevin was his child with his ex-wife, who was apparently getting remarried. Therefore, they decided to take Kevin in. We were newlyweds, and essentially, Kevin was pushed onto us. Kevin was a stranger to me, the child of Richard and his ex-wife. Honestly, I didn't want to take him in. I'm still only 25 years old. Yet suddenly becoming the mother of a 10-year-old was something I couldn't quite wrap my head around. But, unable to turn away a mere 10-year-old child in front of me, we ended up living together. Kevin too must be having a hard time being tossed around by his parents. I wanted to get along with him as much as possible. That's what I initially thought. First, to break the ice, I asked Richard about Kevin's favorite foods and made them enthusiastically.
Tonight's dinner is hamburgers. I made a lot, so there's plenty for seconds.
Cooking was a skill I was good at, so it wasn't a hardship. In fact, I think I rather enjoyed it. However, Kevin's reaction was so bad that it made me lose confidence.
What's this? Gross. Is this some kind of punishment game, making me eat this? Is it bad?
I hurried to taste it myself, and it was delicious. Even Richard said it was very delicious as he ate. Maybe it just didn't suit his taste.
I'm sorry. Well, if you really can't eat it, we have instant food too.
It's okay. I'll eat. It sounded like a kind response, considering my feelings, but what followed was tough. He kept saying it was disgusting and ate as if he was disgusted. It truly seemed like a punishment game. Of course, Richard said nothing.
Ugh, just one more bite to go.
I wanted to tell him he didn't have to eat it. But it's hard to say that to a child I just met. And he might not mean any harm. If it really just wasn't to his taste, I'd feel bad. So, all I could do was apologize to him. I'm sorry.
Well, it can't be helped. I'll just have to endure it.
Thus began my journey into parenting without any preparation. Even though Kevin was already 10 years old, having a child made the household chores feel exponentially more challenging. Of course, my job remained as demanding as ever. I pleaded with Richard for help. Housework and childcare are women's work, aren't they? But he dismissed it. When I tried to get Kevin to lend a hand,
Mom never made me do stuff like that.
He scoffed. Every time I heard responses like these, I couldn't help but feel irritated. In the end, doing all the housework myself was the easiest and quickest option. And just like that, 5 years flew by. Kevin turned 15 and became a middle schooler. We got used to each other and started to talk more freely, like a real family. But I felt it wasn't because we had become close. Kevin still criticized my cooking and refused to help around the house. Recently, he even started insulting my appearance and sense of style.
For a stylist, Sophia, your ideas aren't that great.
Stop it. It's hurtful when you talk like that. Dad's got way better taste, even though he's just a thrift shop clerk. Surprisingly, Kevin seemed to respect Richard. While he treated me poorly, I tried not to take it to heart. Considering I wasn't his biological mom, and perhaps there was some shyness involved. However, one day, it became clear that Kevin simply disliked me.
What? What did you say? Huh? Didn't you hear? I want a divorce.
Coming home late from work, Richard, while eating the dinner I prepared, brought up divorce.
Why all of a sudden? Is it another affair?
Richard nodded.
Well, Sophia, you've changed a lot. I guess it can't be helped at 30, but you just don't feel like a woman to me anymore.
Richard spoke indifferently while Kevin, opposite him, sipped his soup with a mobile phone in hand. I knew I shouldn't let Kevin hear such things. That thought made me instinctively try to stop Richard in that moment. I get it. She totally looks like an auntie. Just like Dad said. My mind went blank. The two of them laughing together. The food they were eating was something I got up early before work to make. The clothes they were wearing were washed by me. The reason they could relax in a clean room was because I cleaned it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became.
Who do you think made me into an auntie? After you guys dumped all the housework on me. Sophia? Why are you getting mad? We're just eating. It's strange to bring up breaking up during a family meal.
That's when he burst out laughing. Looking at him, he was laughing. When our eyes met, he tried to suppress his laughter even more.
What's so funny? Well, I don't remember being born to you. We're not even blood related.
Richard,
Truly,
laughed as well. I felt my face heating up all at once. My vision blurred with tears. For at least these 5 years, I thought I was part of the family. I took responsibility in school events, household chores, as a wife and as a mom. But none of it seemed to have gotten through to these two.
Crying, huh? Well, anyway, that's how it is. I can't feel that way about Sophia anymore.
I was unable to respond, choked by sobs and overwhelmed with tears.
Crying is just troublesome, you know.
He sighed. Kevin nodded in agreement and, with a sneer directed at me as I was in tears, said,
I'm going to live with Dad and my new mom, so hurry up and get a divorce and leave.
Then, without being asked, he started talking about how attractive his dad's new partner, the affair partner, was. She is 25 years old. A former model, now an esthetician. Apparently, she is quite wealthy and gives him an allowance every time they meet. I was shocked to find out that Kevin had met the affair partner multiple times. Was that why he started demeaning my appearance?
Harper is beautiful and kind. She's always smiling, not nagging about unnecessary things like Sophia.
I could be kind too if we only met occasionally. But once I became a mom, I thought I had a responsibility to raise Kevin. So, I nagged him to ensure he wouldn't face troubles in the future. I never imagined it would come back to me in this way. Understood. We'll get a divorce. I agreed to the divorce and left the house as if escaping. As a form of settlement, I received all of our modest shared savings. I just wanted to get away from them as soon as possible. After the divorce, I worked hard. Until then, I had actually been holding back on work because of Kevin and the household chores. Not having to think about that anymore was a relief. I had no choice but to work. There might have been a part of me that was reckless. But thankfully, my work increased steadily. Before I knew it, more people started requesting me specifically. Becoming a stepmother so suddenly is now a thing of the past. I've come to accept that.
Eh? Sophia, you've been divorced?
This beautiful woman, surprised, is Olivia, the actress I exclusively work with. 3 years after my divorce, I'm 33 years old, younger than Olivia, who is in her 40s. Despite being older, her timeless beauty always takes my breath away. Yes, that's right. Suddenly being introduced to a stepchild and then abruptly being told about a divorce, it was quite a mess.
What? That sounds like something out of a soap opera.
Right? Please don't move yet, your other eye isn't dry. Olivia, with her eyes sparkling, urged me to continue the story. It's not that interesting, you know? I prefaced my tale like that and then, interspersing it with jokes, briefly talked about my married life. After hearing everything, Olivia let out a deep sigh.
Unbelievable. How can that father and son be real? After all the care and not a single word of thanks? And to abandon you, unforgivable.
Abandon.
Well, yes. When you're managing housework, childcare, and a job, there's no time left to take care of yourself.
Coming from Olivia, who's always in the public eye, these words carried weight. Hearing that from you makes me feel vindicated about those times. Thank you.
Are you crying? Oh dear, you really went through a lot.
I regretted crying during work, but Olivia.
Don't worry about it. Looking forward to working with you again.
Smiled beautifully with her finished look. After completing the rest of the work, I headed home with a pleasant sense of fatigue. Then, I saw a figure sitting at the entrance of the apartment. Approaching, I realized it was a boy in a uniform. He seemed to be a high school student. I glanced at him and tried to pass by, attempting to unlock the lobby. The boy stood up and said to me,
"Mom,"
looking down at me with a smile. I stared at his face for about 3 seconds, then tilted my head. "Who are you?"
"Eh?"
The boy's smile fell, and he started to panic. Taking the opportunity, I passed through the auto-lock door.
"Hey, wait!"
The boy was still calling out, but I didn't look back and instead boarded the elevator. Although I maintained a poker face as I fled, my heart was pounding. I don't have any children. But that face was familiar to me. That boy was likely Kevin. He would be about 18 years old now, which fits. Why come to me after all this time? Since the divorce, I hadn't been in touch with Richard or Kevin. From Kevin's last words 3 years ago, I surmised Richard had remarried. Had something happened with his new wife? It wouldn't make sense otherwise. There's no way Kevin would seek me out without a reason. Whatever the reason, it couldn't be good. And the fact that he knew where I lived was alarming. What should I do if we meet again? With an indescribable feeling, I returned home. From the next day, I became more vigilant when going out and coming home. For a while, there was nothing unusual, but the following week, I saw a figure at the apartment entrance again. He hadn't noticed me yet, so I took a closer look and, sure enough, it seemed to be Kevin. It was just past 6 p.m. Since it was summer and the sun was high, it was bright outside, and being a residential area, people were passing by. With this, I figured I could call for help if anything happened. Just in case, I had a personal alarm in my pocket and my mobile phone ready in my left hand as I approached the entrance. This time, the boy noticed me sooner and stood up. He came over to me with an uneasy demeanor.
"Long time no see,"
and showed a smile. Sure enough, the boy was Kevin.
"Why did you run away last time?"
"What do you want?" Cutting off the conversation abruptly and asking bluntly, Kevin showed a displeased face.
"That's cold. To meet your son after so long."
"Huh?" I frowned, and for some reason, he looked surprisingly puzzled.
"What? Aren't you happy to see me after such a long time?"
"Why would I want to see you after how we parted ways?" I found it strange that he thought I would be pleased. If anything, I had hoped never to see him again. "So, what do you want?" Kevin answered reluctantly.
"Can you help Dad?"
"Dad, as in Richard?"
"Yeah."
Kevin started to explain in a rush, as if pleading for me to listen. After our divorce, Richard remarried Harper, the woman he had an affair with. They moved out of their apartment and into Harper's. At first, they enjoyed being a happy family of 3, but gradually, Richard and Harper began to argue more frequently.
"Dad's attractive, so naturally, he has a lot of women around him. Harper didn't find that funny."
"That's understandable. Richard wouldn't hesitate to cheat, not being the type to avoid affairs. And since Harper herself had snatched him away, there was always the risk of him being taken from her. It's natural for her to feel insecure."
"So, after a big fight last month, Harper finally left."
"But isn't the place you're living in Harper's house?"
"Yeah, but she left anyway."
"Maybe she had a family house nearby. Or moved in with a friend. At any rate, Richard is an adult, surely he can manage without Harper." Frankly, I couldn't care less. "If you're worried, you could visit his workplace or have Richard look for her. There are ways to handle this."
"That's why I came to you, right? Hoping you'd help." Do I have to spell it out for you?
Kevin clicked his tongue loudly and stamped his feet in frustration. Apparently, he found my address purely by chance. He happened to see me entering this apartment and had been lying in wait on the days he could come ever since.
I see.
It was just by chance. That's all I was worried about. I had been anxious he might have looked me up on social media or something, but if it was just a coincidence, that was a relief. Feeling clear-headed, I turned to enter the apartment. Kevin was surprised and quickly grabbed my arm.
What the hell? Wait. Why are you trying to go back inside?
Well, I'm going home. You should be grateful I even listened to you. We're strangers now. I have no obligation to do anything for you. Kevin clenched his back teeth, looking frustrated. Then, he managed to squeeze out the words.
Heartless. And to think you were a parent.
That's right. But I don't remember giving birth to you, nor are we blood related. I replied with a smile, and Kevin's face turned red. I shook off his arm and dashed into the apartment.
Hey!
I quickly unlocked the door and passed through just as the automatic door was closing in front of him.
Hey! Don't mock me! Hey!
I'm not mocking you. I'm just bothered. Also, if I see you again, I'll call the police. Don't come here again. I was worried he might not have heard me through the automatic door, but seeing Kevin fall silent, he likely did. What a waste of my time. I truly didn't care about Richard and his wife's current situation. Yet, just before bedtime, I received a call from Richard. It had been 3 years. With a sigh, I answered the phone.
Long time no see. How are you?
Long time. I'm fine. So, what? You want me to help look for Harper too? I said sarcastically, and Richard sounded surprised.
How did you know about that?
Kevin came to my house asking for help, even lying in wait. It's a nuisance, so please don't involve me in your problems. Bye. I hung up right there. But when he called back almost immediately, I reluctantly answered.
Why did you hang up?
Surprised by being cut off, Richard sounded unusually irritable. Isn't it the same thing as Kevin? I wish you'd stop relying on strangers.
I feels lonely, like it's someone else's problem.
It's pretty selfish to cut people off and then expect help from them. I couldn't help but laugh at his self-centeredness. Richard seemed a bit awkward but continued the conversation as if nothing had happened.
Harper was always irritated, telling us to leave. So I told her, then you leave.
And it seems she did just that.
Why do girls always change like that? They start off cute.
I hung up reflexively. Now feeling sympathy even for Harper, whom I've never met. It seems we married a terrible man. I even wished I had left him sooner. I guess I'll have to tell Olivia about this to get it off my chest. After quickly setting Richard's number to auto-reject, I muttered to myself. Olivia laughed heartily when I told her.
Such foolish men.
Right? I have a feeling he might still show up, which is annoying.
There are men like that. Even after breaking up, they think they can still rely on their ex.
Olivia said this with a pensive look. Leaning her cheek on her hand, even this gesture was somehow attractive. What should I do? Though I mentioned calling the police, I wasn't sure how much that would deter them. I doubted the police would take it seriously if I actually contacted them. As I pondered, Olivia said with a laugh.
Well, they say the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
Eh? Ah, I see. Motivated by Olivia's advice, I decided to take action. Despite my clear warning not to come, I sighed upon seeing the duo sitting in front of my apartment. Then, I made a phone call to summon someone, and together with this person, I approached the two.
Ah, Sophia.
After calling my name, Richard widened his eyes upon seeing the person next to me. Kevin also froze, mirroring Richard's expression.
Why are you two together?
Oh, you want to know? We hit it off. Bonding over our mutual experiences with worthless men. I smiled, and Harper, standing beside me, nodded in agreement.
It's tough, isn't it? These guys can't do anything.
Exactly. Life's so much easier now.
Most guys nowadays can at least do household chores. Even asking for seconds is someone else's job.
Kids are more reliable. Richard and Kevin's faces turned red.
It's only natural for a mom to take care of the kids.
Oh, please. We're strangers, remember? You said it yourself. And you're in high school now, what are you even saying? When Richard tried to intervene, we both gave him a stern look. You're the root of all this, you irresponsible man. Harper chimed in after my outburst.
Really, you're great at depending on others. And despite being old, you only like younger women. Unbelievable.
Richard and Kevin fell silent. Their faces a match in expression.
Kevin, you better brace yourself. You seem to look up to him, but if you take this man as your role model, you won't have a good future waiting for you.
Eh?
Harper's planning to file for compensation. I gave up halfway, but she's going to thoroughly investigate.
Richard's face turned pale.
I was hesitant, but thanks to Sophia, I've made up my mind. I don't want to see his face anymore. Wait, Harper. That.
Richard, mouth agape, and Kevin, perhaps seeing himself in the situation, stood dumbfounded. Ignoring them both, I took Harper's hand.
Shall we go then?
Yes. Richard and Kevin remained in a daze, as if their souls had left their bodies, and didn't even attempt to follow. It seems Harper went on to divorce and demanded compensation from everyone involved.
I'm sorry for what happened before.
And I was apologized to for ruining the relationship between Richard and me. Then, as a form of compensation, I was given a considerable amount of money. Gratefully, I accepted it. Due to the compensation demanded by Harper, Richard found himself penniless. And the stress apparently caused his hair to thin significantly, leading to a loss in his popularity. Kevin seems to be frightened by his father's changed appearance. I reported the entire series of events to Olivia. It was thanks to her that I first managed to contact Harper. She found a connection to Harper, a former model, and put us in touch. This peaceful present is all thanks to her.
You've been looking good lately, haven't you?
I've been going to Harper's aesthetic salon. It's really nice there. Afterward, Harper and I surprisingly got along well and became friends. The enemy of my enemy is indeed a friend. Just as Olivia had said. From now on, I want to moderate my romantic entanglements and dedicate myself more to my work, aiming to become a top stylist.